Welcome to the 2015 UT Social Media Week at the University of Tennessee, brought to you by the College of Communication and Information and hosted by the School of Advertising and Public Relations at UT. This year's theme, The Power of Social Media, will provide our students, faculty, and the Knoxville community with a great opportunity to gain leading-edge knowledge about the uses and impacts of social media. The 2015 UT Social Media Week at the University of Tennessee is brought to you by the following sponsors: WATE, 6 on your side; Coca-Cola Bottling Company Consolidated, Coca-Cola, Open Happiness; and Dead End Barbecue. The search is over.
Can everyone hear? Okay. I would just like to thank everyone for coming out this morning. There are free refreshments from Coca-Cola in the back if you guys get thirsty. We're also going to be live tweeting during the session, so you can follow the tweets over here with the hashtag UTSMW2015. And there's going to be a sign-in sheet being passed around, and everyone should sign in, not just students. That way we can keep track. Today, we are very pleased to have Stephen Anfield, a Vol for life. That is, everyone should ask him about his socks. And he is a social media consultant. After serving as a student leader at the University of Tennessee as a resident assistant, orientation leader, and UT ambassador, and a ASB team member, Stephen knew that he wanted to continue serving others. He moved to Washington, D.C. in 2004 to service with City Year, an AmeriCorps-funded program. Upon completion of his year of service, he worked for several for-profit companies while concurrently pursuing his interest in the nonprofit sector through volunteering and contracting opportunities with a variety of organizations that include AARP Foundation, and a number of smaller nonprofit organizations. Stephen has held leadership positions with the DC chapter of the UT Alumni Association, AmeriCorps Alums, Hands on DC, and the Presidential Inaugural Committee, and he loves bacon. And the faculty and College of Communications and Information would like you to know that you are an awesome alum, and that we're very pleased that you chose UT.
Hear me? Can you hear me? Am I good? Awesome. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Stephen Anfield, and I'm going to be talking to you all today about how social media can make the world a better place. So let's see if I can do this correctly. Forward. Okay, so our overview. So LART, it's Life After Rocky Top. I'll give you an overview of what I've been doing since I left Knoxville, Tennessee. AmeriCorps, City Year, Server Year, on accidentally becoming a consultant because I did not plan to become one. It just happened. And then thoughts on social media for social good. After Rocky Top. These are some of the things that I've been doing since I left the University of Tennessee. So for example, we have OSDPA. Who can guess what that acronym stands for? We're really big on acronyms in DC. You can probably guess the PA part. Okay. Public Affairs. Awesome. Affairs. So the first three letters are Office of the Secretary of Defense. So it's Office of Secretary of Defense, Public Affairs. I worked there as a media analyst. We talked about Hands-On Network and the Disney Give a Day campaign. AARP, also the AARP Foundation. Family to Family is a small nonprofit, and that was my first client. They are based out of New York. Attitude Magazine is for people who have ADHD, and Dr. Haji probably could attest to that in college with me. So, right. Right, exactly. And then so ADDA is the Attention Deficit Disorder Association. I've also worked for Honda, Volkswagen, Volvo, and Encore.org. So what we're going to talk about, all of these things are related in some way. Either they started with social media or they have evolved into social media because I wanted to do that after having worked with AARP. One of the big things that I'm passionate about is national service. So we talk about the Hands-On Network, and that's all connected to AmeriCorps. It's connected to City Year, Survey Year, all of that. So while OSDPA is not necessarily nonprofits government, but that's been kind of like my jumping off point. So that was one of the first positions I had moving to DC. And picture with me and Hillary, that is a result of having done City Year and presenting an award. I typically go back to City Year events, AmeriCorps events, and I present as the Master of Ceremonies. And so that was my first event that I did moving to DC. AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is a government organization. There are many different programs under this one big umbrella, and all of these organizations under the government organization are nonprofits. So under AmeriCorps, we have NCCC, which is the National Civilian Community Corps. We have VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America, FEMA Corps, AmeriCorps State, and AmeriCorps National. Now, as you can see, there are two that have asterisks next to them, which denotes programs where social media skills could be utilized. So if you're looking at going into the nonprofit sector or applying to AmeriCorps, VISTA or AmeriCorps State would be with smaller nonprofits where you'd be working on food insecurity or fixing poverty or homelessness. So like I said, VISTA, AmeriCorps State, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to use social media in any of the other ones. I just think those two are the main ones that you would probably want to focus on. So AmeriCorps is something I did when I first moved to DC. And you're probably wondering why, what is AmeriCorps, why did I sign up? So some of the benefits of AmeriCorps, you get a living stipend. And one of the other things is that you have student loans, you're wondering how you're going to pay them off. And so one of the big things with AmeriCorps is that after your year of service, you get $5,730 to apply to your education. You can use it towards your undergrad, your graduate, and there are other ways that you can use it, let's say if you want to buy a computer for your education. Possible forbearance of qualified student loans. And so, yes, that is one of the possibilities. So if you have drastic student loans and you're like, well, how can I kind of stop that? Possible forbearance during your term of service. With AmeriCorps, you can serve 1 year or 2 years. Health plan benefits and work and life skills that translate into job experience. Social media, what? And it's a lot of fun. So instead of me talking, I'm going to let you see a video about AmeriCorps, and I was telling people earlier that there are certain parts of these videos that they really affect me a lot. So I teared up coming into Knoxville, and I'm probably going to tear up at, there's one particular part of the video, so I'm going to try and kind of hold it down. But let's see, how do we start this? The mouse is not working. Oh, there we go. I was there for that. That's a swearing-in ceremony. Swearing in again. My home state, anybody from Alabama? Whoop, whoop.
Day on earth, I will be grateful that I had a chance to start AmeriCorps.
More than 900,000 people have served during the last 20 years. As impressive as that number is, the accomplishments behind it are even greater. AmeriCorps members built homes, helped veterans and their families, got kids in school back on track from their life.
And to all who served, George and I send our gratitude. To those of you beginning your service, thank you for the commitment you're making to our country, and may God bless you.
Because like all those who serve their country through AmeriCorps, they don't just believe in, but live out a fundamental truth. And that is the people who love their country can change it. That is the genius of America. That is the promise of AmeriCorps. It's one of the reasons I'm so committed to this program and why I'm so hopeful about the future.
And so as you can see, the hashtag that I used at the very top, hashtag national service. So those of you who like to follow hashtags, that's one of my favorite things to do. If you follow that, you will probably get any type of AmeriCorps program talking about their service and how they're impacting the community. A lot of times it's typically from the AmeriCorps office, the main office. And if you're, let's say, who volunteers actually in the group? Anyone do any kind of nonprofit? So what do you all do as far as volunteer work? Kids school, okay, kids in schools. And I saw a hand over here. Animal shelters, okay. And one more over here. Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So all of those that you mentioned, wherever you're going, if you want to take a picture and hashtag national service, that then becomes part of the whole conversation about national service. Doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're serving others. And so, more specifically, part of AmeriCorps is the program that I served with, and that was when I first moved to DC, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, and so I chose City Year. And City Year is a program for 17 to 24-year-olds based out of Boston, started by two Harvard graduates who were roommates, actually, Michael Brown and Alan Casey. And this is the video that there's one particular part that I've watched it hundreds of times, and I've not cried. So City Year has a very special place in my heart. Because of City Year, I've had so many opportunities opened for me in DC, such as speaking engagements, going to nonprofit events, meeting senators. And if you're into politics, AmeriCorps, City Year, all of that is an excellent way to kind of jumpstart your career. So the next video I have is City Year. Where is it? Oh, there we go.
This was the year. The one where you learned what an A tastes like. The one where you found the courage to speak up. When you realized you could grow up to be whatever you wanted to be.
But maybe it was also the year you had a hard time making it to class, staying out of trouble, keeping up. the year, you had so much on your mind. You thought about not coming to school at all.
I know that in too many neighborhoods across the country, this is the story. Students bring more challenges into class than their schools can help them meet. Not just having a hard time with their schoolwork, but with how they feel, too.
Things that make it hard to graduate or to find a job. That mean never getting a chance to reach your full potential.
That's why when school starts this year, I'll be there. And we'll be there to say good morning.
This is my full-time mission. And when the sun rises, till it sets. To make sure that my students and their whole school are on the path to success.
I remember what it was like to get mixed up in algebra, or to get into trouble at lunch, or to lose focus with so much going on around me.
So I'll work with your teachers and your principal to make sure you get help when you need it.
To be there to help explain exponents.
To teach you some ways to calm down.
To make school a place you want to be.
Every time you see a red jacket in the hall, you'll see someone to confide in.
Someone to look up to.
Someone who's giving a year of service to be part of something big.
But most importantly, you'll see Mr. Rodriguez.
Miss Bennett,
Mr. James,
we're here to make this the year you finish your first chapter book.
The year you had purpose.
The year you realize it's okay to love math.
I'm here to make this the year you start believing you can be whatever it is you want to be. This year, might be your city year.
Okay, so that's city year. So the hashtag at the very top is Make Better Happen. That's another hashtag you can follow anytime during the weekday, and you can see the direct impact that kids are having with their students who are serving at one of our 25 sites in the US, and there are 2 internationally, 1 in London and 1 in South Africa. So if you're interested in City Year, you would apply through the AmeriCorps website, choose City Year, and that would be one of the programs that you could choose. And then you choose which site you want to go to. I chose DC, and so it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I did tear up a little bit. And I'm going to pass this around. This was kind of my Bible during City Year. It's the Idealist Handbook. And so we're called Idealists. We have a code that we follow called PITWs, Putting Idealism to Work. And so through this book, we learn about City Year, the culture, what the badge means that we wear every day. The color red has a significance. And one cool story about City Year, I'll start here and you can flip through that. The reason why it's so impactful for me is that I didn't realize how much I wanted to work with a nonprofit and then also kind of figure out ways that I could help other nonprofits figure out how they could spread their message. So we have a thing called Starfish Story. Does anyone know what the Starfish Story is by chance? Probably not. Okay. So Starfish Story is essentially, there's a little girl walking along the beach. She's throwing these washed up starfish back in the ocean. And there's a guy that comes up and says, "You're not going to possibly save all of these starfish." And so she looks at the man and says, he picks up one and throws it back in and says, "At least I saved that one." So that's one of our founding stories with City Year. And that's one way that I always kind of recenter myself when I'm in a difficult situation. I always say, okay, this is going to be my starfish. If it's a coworker, and I'm like, okay, they're the most difficult person on the face of the earth, I make them my starfish. I figure out what it is that I can do to kind of make the situation even better. And so going back to social media and coming up with solutions, City Year is awesome because, like I said, we're young idealists. So when you're presented with a problem, you want to create a solution. And so with social media, I've found, like falling into being a consultant for nonprofits, I've discovered that there are tons of nonprofits who are smaller, who don't have the budget, they don't have the money to spend for a full-time social media staff person. So one great way from AmeriCorps, if you want to work in the nonprofit sector, is to then volunteer with a nonprofit who is smaller, and that gives you experience for your resume. And so before I go further about how I accidentally became a consultant for nonprofits, there's one more video I'm going to show. It's another one. It's hashtag Survey Year. And this is a program where we are emphasizing having students not only be able to talk about where they went to high school or college, but where they did their year of service. So you all already know where I did my year of service, and the cool thing about this is that Jimmy Kimmel is now part of this initiative. And so I will go ahead and let you all see this, and this will be the last video for my presentation. Just go ahead.
The one where you learn what an A feels like.
Let's go forward. And you'll see a familiar face. Not me, but.
This is called Survey Year, this campaign that it helps you talk about it a little bit, because
Well, but we're thrilled to have your support. We were so grateful to kick off Survey Year at Jimmy Kimmel's studio today. So, yeah, please.
we had high school kids from Hollywood High School kids.
From across the way, AmeriCorps Alums and current AmeriCorps serving volunteers. And the real idea behind Survey Year is that just like we all talk about when we went to high school or went to college, young people in America can talk about where they did their service. And we have so many challenges. We have 1 million kids who don't graduate from high school. We have almost 15 million Americans who are food insecure. And we know that national service can help solve those challenges that we face and provide a real pathway to employment for young people. We have almost 6 million 16 to 24-year-olds who aren't in school or aren't in a job. So thinking about solving those challenges together, giving more young people the opportunity to serve, to help empower the next generation is something that clearly all of us who are there today are committed to, and we're thrilled to have the entertainment industry be part of this effort.
Well, I'm glad you explained that, because I'll be honest, when we shot the PSA today, I was a little bit confused, and well, here we go.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Clinton.
And I'm Jimmy Kimmel.
We're here today to tell you about the launch of a major new initiative.
Listen closely, because if you don't, it could cost you your life.
It won't cost you your life, but it could very well change your life. It's a new effort from the Clinton Foundation, Service Nation, and leaders in entertainment and media. It's called Survey Year.
Temporary name will come up with something more exciting version. I happen to like National Ninja Warrior Squad, or Squad Run.
Our goal is to inspire young Americans to dedicate a year of their lives to national service. 1 year to make America a better place.
And then you never have to help anyone ever again.
America faces many serious challenges. Child poverty, low graduation rates, youth unemployment.
Gluten, one.
Through AmeriCorps programs, Teach for America, City Year, FEMA-Corps, and others, young people can be the force of positive change.
And you get so many pictures of yourself doing it on Facebook and Instagram. Here I am helping an unfortunate person. That's 200 life experience.
Within a year of real-world experience, the pride that comes from helping others, and within a real paycheck.
Oh, plus you have such a good excuse for getting out of stuff. I wish I could come to your improv show, but I can't because I'm serving America.
You gain maturity and confidence while doing desperately needed work.
And you get to skip jury duty.
No, you don't.
Really?
That's not true.
I feel like it should be the thing. No?
This is about giving something back to the country we all love.
Remember, there's no I in service.
A million Americans spend a year serving our schools, our health centers, and communities struggling with poverty or disaster.
Imagine what would happen if you dumped 1 million rainbow jello shots into an Olympic-sized swimming pool. What? What we're imagining things.
Survey Year is about changing lives, including yours. And in the end, don't we all owe America that much?
No.
Make your commitment to a year of national service. Sign up today for National Ninja Warrior Squad.
It's Survey Year. Visit the website and join.
Survey, it's up to all of us.
Okay, so that was Survey Year with Jimmy Kimmel, and that's a new initiative that we're now pushing forward. Can you all still hear me with this? Yes? Okay, I'm going to sit down for a bit. So this section about how I accidentally became a nonprofit consultant, I just fell into it. I wanted to volunteer with AARP, partially because my grandmother passed away from a neurodegenerative, that's a tongue twister, disease, and I didn't like the care that she was receiving. So I wanted to solve a problem. So I went to AARP and decided to volunteer to better understand some of the problems or issues that were being faced by older Americans. So I ended up volunteering with an initiative called Create the Good. And while I was there, that's when I learned about social media, how to measure social media, all different types of things. And so it was an unpaid position. However, the amount of knowledge that I gained from that, I then used it to turn it into a paid position at AARP. Through that position, I connected with the former CNN hero by the name of Pam Kohner, and she's the founder of Family to Family, and that's the organization I mentioned before as my first client. So it was because of volunteering and working my butt off while volunteering and not getting paid, it then turned into a paid position, and then because I did such a great job there, they said, hey, Pam, you need someone to do your social media? Steven's here, why can't he do it? So then she became kind of my mentor as far as doing social media as a job. I didn't think you could make money doing social media because I was like, I just play on it all day. So why or how can I make money from it? And so Pam is awesome, AARP is awesome. That's the plug for them. And because of doing those steps, Smart Money has written about me and also the Nonprofit Times. And so I never thought any of that would have happened. And so going back to the very beginning, I saw a problem, I wanted to create a solution, and along the way, I found a way to actually make money to pay myself. So there's that. So we're going to talk about what social media is, because I'm supposed to talk about my views on social media. So one, it's all about relationships. And for me, it's about connecting companies and donors. And what I was mentioning before is that nonprofits are typically, they don't have the funds, they don't have the capability to connect with donors, they don't know how to use social media, and they need the help. So I see myself as kind of a conduit. I connect with the companies such as Hormel, Black Label Bacon, which I will give you all some bacon. I have 24. I'll get some more for you and send them back to campus. And also Chipotle is like one awesome company they've gone above and beyond for helping me connect with nonprofits, and they've been just kind of like, Stephen, who are you working with this week? So yeah, if you are looking into going into social media with nonprofits, that's essentially your role. You're going to be the connector. And has anyone read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point? You have. Connector. You know that section, right? That's essentially what I do for nonprofits. I connect them to companies that have the funds, or vice versa. A company could be looking to connect with a nonprofit in a specific service area. I mentioned earlier about solving problems. If you think about a problem and thinking about how you can solve it, being a young idealist, like we say in City Year, you've won a follower. If you approach someone on social media, and this is something that I've seen happen quite a bit, you solve a problem for them, and it could be a simple tweet. They could ask, hey, Stephen, do you know where I can find information about? And so my natural inclination would be, you can just Google it. But if you're willing to put forth the effort, do the research, and put it out there, they're going to appreciate that. And if you take it offline, which I particularly like doing, by either going to the nonprofit or calling them, and just helping them or figure out what it is that they're trying to do and trying to figure out several solutions to solve that problem. Once again, also providing value to others. So in addition to solving problems, providing value. So one thing about providing value, it's, like I said, if you research it yourself and you send them a link and you do above and beyond, like for example, this isn't a nonprofit, but anybody watch Master Chef Junior? Okay, you do. That's one of my favorite shows. And so Logan, he's the recent winner, right? So we interact on Twitter because I helped him figure out, oh, there's an event at the White House. Have you heard about this? His mom manages his Twitter account, but I'm providing value by saying, hey, I saw this, you might be interested in this. So for the woman in the back who knows about Malcolm Gladwell, so okay. And so if you remember, for example, anything about someone, like what their interests are, like you might hear a nonprofit say, oh, I really need someone that's really good at IT. You might have a friend that works in IT, and you can connect those two. It's always about listening and paying attention to what the need is. And so I feel like my ears are always on. I'm pretty much always on. But say what now? Yes. I'm kind of a combination of all three. Yeah. And then social media is forever. The Stephen rule of thumb, I don't post anything I wouldn't feel comfortable with in saying in front of my youngest relative. And that may seem a little too much, but there are some things I see that young people are posting, and I'm like, you don't understand that when you are looking for a job or if a nonprofit wants to work with you, they're going to look at your Twitter feed or your Facebook or your Instagram. So you have to be really careful about posting things that you don't want to come back to haunt you. Social media is fun. You've got to show your personality. Don't be a jerk. And I'm pretty sure that if you're in communications, you have a natural personality, so that shouldn't be too difficult for you. The next one, we're going to talk about what social media is not. The first one is promotion media. One thing with nonprofits is that they tend to use social media as a megaphone. They may post events only. They won't engage with their followers. It's just, oh, we have an event, or we need money, or this, that, or the other, and it's not engaging with the donor or the potential donor. And so it's not promotion media. What social media is not also, it's not quite there with most nonprofit organizations. And so on this chart, we have that 88% of nonprofits said their most important communication tools were email and websites. And so they're not really utilizing social media as much as they should. And the other chart is 47%. This may have to do with the fact that that many nonprofits, the engagement is donation. And so they're looking for someone to actually donate it or donate to their cause as opposed to just interacting with them. Sometimes you have to just interact with a donor or a company instead of just going for the straight-on ask. Because let's say, for example, would you give money to someone just randomly on the street? Like if you knew them like maybe a month or two? Like let's say they asked for 500 bucks. Would you likely give them 500 bucks? Probably not. But if there's someone that you've known for a substantial amount of time, you've had a relationship with them, would you think about it? Probably. So that kind of filters or goes the same way. And back to the promotion media, it's, if you look on Twitter, for example, and just look for your favorite nonprofit, look for smaller nonprofits, and it's typically event, and that's a secret of mine. If I see a nonprofit that is typically doing what I call promotion media, that probably means they don't have someone full-time to manage their Twitter account or their Facebook, and they could probably use someone's expertise that knows how to engage their donor base. So in conclusion, this is not a power ramble, it's called a PowerPoint. So I'm hoping I made most of my point. And so I will now open the floor to question and answers. Any questions about nonprofit social good or? Okay.
What advice do you have for our students who are trying to get into nonprofits and don't necessarily have the luxury of doing an unpaid year, or not luxury, but you know, if they're not able to financially swing that, but how to still get that experience without the pay sometimes?
Well, one thing I recommend is that AmeriCorps does pay. So if you do Teach for America, that's 2 years. You do get a salary. Yeah, with City Year, you do get a stipend. Vista and CCC, those all do offer a stipend, a weekly stipend. But if you don't want to do one of those, you could always get a part-time job somewhere, but then in addition to that, you could volunteer at a nonprofit and do that on the side. And you're getting the experience, you can put that on your resume, and you can then show what you've done with that nonprofit. Yes? You mean volunteer here or just, or my favorites? I would probably say City Year was my absolute favorite. I'm still quite involved with like the alumni part of City Year, and some of the things that I learned about myself and I learned about other people or how to interact with other people, I don't think I would have gotten that had I not done City Year. The story I told you about the starfish. So one of my students that I tutored was in the 6th grade and was reading on a 1st grade reading level. And so about 3 days out of the week, I would go tutor him at a nonprofit for at-risk youth. And we would leave the tutoring facility, and he would throw rocks at me, call me names. And it was like, okay, I don't think I'm cut out for this. And so remembering the starfish story, I was like, okay, he is my starfish. And so by the end of the year, like maybe my last 2 weeks serving with City Year, he came up to me and hugged me and said, thank you. And that's when I was like, yes, it was all worth it. He's back on his 6th grade reading level now, so that's what it's all about. So that's probably my most awesome moment, defining moment. Yep.
If you ask the questions in the mic, then everybody watching can.
How does the brainstorming process work for you as far as hashtags?
How do you, brainstorming as far as
hashtags,
coming up, like creating a hashtag?
Yeah, creating a hashtag for an organization.
I've just pretty much, okay, for example, let's say Family to Family, for example. I know that they focus on food insecurity. They probably focus on hunger, maybe homelessness. I already know that hunger is a pretty popular hashtag. Homelessness is also a pretty popular hashtag in food insecurity. So I may say something like fam to fam, hashtag fam to fam hunger, or hashtag hunger fam to fam, or something with one of those names in it. Or I might just use fam to fam hashtag and then hunger hashtag. So, yeah. And to touch on that, actually, I would use hashtag fam to fam and hunger, because a lot of people are talking about hunger and food insecurity. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that's a popular hashtag, that's what I would use so it gained more visibility. And to track that, I use tweetreach.com. If you put in a hashtag on a site called TweetReach, you can see how much, like for example, hashtag UTSMW. You can see who's chatting about it, what they said, what's the reach, how many retweets someone's getting. So. So for the people who, are there any other questions?
I have one. What are some nonprofits that you think are really excelling in the world of social media?
AARP is one, AARP Foundation, obviously they're huge. City Year is one. So I feel like I'm biased, but City Year is doing awesome. They have the hashtag Make Better Happen. So at any given time during the day, like let's say I'm having a bad day and I search Make Better Happen, that brings my spirits up because I'm like, these kids are doing awesome work and I miss it. For smaller nonprofits, I would say Family to Family is also doing pretty well. They partnered a few years ago with Groupon, and so that got the money. Yeah, the ones I mentioned are probably the ones that I'm biased, but. Has the book made it around yet? The Idealist Handbook? It's made it around. And so for the people who ask questions, can you raise your hand? Okay, you two, who else? Okay, you two and you pick 2 other people. I've got a gift for y'all, so.